So, as always, super excited to welcome Taylor Momsen back on Loudwire Nights. But there's a big difference this time, Taylor, outside of the video. There's another difference. And that's that I've actually listened to all of Death by Rock and Roll in advance. I've looked over the lyrics. It doesn't come out till February 12th, but we're going to be able to actually talk about the songs, which is nice. You know, we've had a couple of, I can't really get into that type of moments, but I'm ready if you're ready.
Let's do it.
How are you feeling? Like, we're a couple weeks out at this point. Like, mentally, how are you feeling? I know you were just dying to put stuff out as is.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I feel like my emotions are kind of all over the place at this point. I'm extraordinarily excited, I guess, is the first thing. It's just, I feel like we've been sitting on this record for so long, and I'm so happy that everyone's going to finally be able to hear it. But at the same time, I was talking about the other night to the guys, I was like, there's this kind of almost like the strange little sadness of like, once it's out into the world, it's no longer mine. Like, it's no longer this like precious little thing that I've, held so dear for a few years now. So, it doesn't belong to me anymore. It belongs to the rest of the world, which is super exciting. And I'm totally ecstatic about it. But there is like this teeny tiny part of me that's like, oh, bye, child. Like, it's like a child. And I feel like, it's like sending a kid off to college or something every time you release something. And it's like, just, you hope you did it justice, and you hope you did it well, and, raised it well, and hope the world is kind to it.
Well, I know you said that you think that it's the best record the Pretty Reckless have ever put out. And I just want to say that I agree. I thought it was absolutely spectacular. I mean, I'm not a musician. I'm just a casual listener who loves music. And I thought it was absolutely spectacular.
Well, thank you very much. We worked incredibly hard on it. So I'm incredibly proud of it. So, mostly excitement. So I didn't mean to like make this start with like there's a little bit of like, no, that's it. It's like the end of Christmas or something. Like, the holiday's over.
I get it. All right. So we already kind of touched on Death by Rock and Roll, and you guys have moved on to the second single, but it's track 1 on the record. So I'm going back just a little for this song. What was the tone you were trying to set? Like, when you're finding the first song you want to put out into the universe after, a few years of no new music, you're obviously saying, I'm back. We Still Kick Ass is shot to the top of the charts. People loved it, but what tone were you setting?
I don't know if I think that calculatedly. I think to me, it was important that, Death by Rock and Roll is the first song on the album. It's obviously the title track. And I think that it was kind of important to me that be the first thing that people hear. Because this record is so personal, and it does take you on such a journey, and it's such a story. It's such a kind of full circle story. It was important that the first thing people heard was the introduction to that, which is Death by Rock and Roll. So that was kind of my mindset behind it.
Okay. Track 2, which is Only Love Can Save Me Now, kind of had me thinking back to all the recent interviews you've had where you said that music has saved your life time and time again. So I kind of thought it was interesting that you would name Only Love Can Save Me Now. And I wondered, what do you think is more powerful, the power of love or the power of music?
I think they're one and the same, honestly. I think, I love music with everything I have in my heart, and I love people the same way I love music. Like, I think that passion is passion, and I think and support is support, and whether I get that from a person or from a song, I think it's a combination. So to me, I think they're, at least the way I live my life and the way I think in my own head, like they're equal, like they're kind of the same thing.
Okay, this is the song that features Kim Thayil and Matt Cameron on it. And I wonder, did you go into this record consciously thinking, I want the people featured on this record to have a musical background with Chris Cornell, or did it just turn out that way? Those two, then Tom Morello with Audio Slave?
It was honestly just kind of happenstance. I didn't go into this record with the intention of featuring anyone. Like, I never do. That's not how I think. It's not how I write songs. Like, collaborations, I think, especially now in today's kind of paradigm, can be very just kind of overdone, and they can be used more as a marketing tool more than like an actual artistic collaboration. And that's something that I don't personally love by any means. so for me, you know, the songs come first. That's the core of it. That's the whole thing. And so, you know, the song dictates where it should go and who should be a part of it, and, you know, who can elevate the song to the highest level possible. And with Only Love Can Save Me Now, when I finished writing that, it had a very, you know, dare I say it, it had a very kind of Soundgarden-esque feel to it. And, you know, I'm very dear friends with Matt and Kim, and so I sent them a demo of it, and I called them up and was like, hey, would you guys want to play on this? Because, like, my joke was, if you guys don't, we're just going to sound like we're ripping you off. So, you know, please lend your magic to this. And, you know, they obviously did. And I'm so thankful and happy about it. And it's for sure one of my favorite songs on the record. And I'm really excited for people to hear that one, because that one in particular is something that, we worked really hard on, and I'm just super proud of it.
It is a special song. I have to say, I am partial to track 3, and So It Went, though. Jesus. Okay, so the first time I heard that song, I'm like, okay, I know, I get it. And then you just go in this completely different direction, and I'd be like, what? Wait. And then all of a sudden you're over here, and I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna stop trying to predict where this song is going. Such a beautiful song. Obviously, Tom Morello on it, everyone's going to hear it, and, you know, he's a master at what he does. But I want to ask about kind of the Heaven Knows flashback and bringing the kids chorus back, and why you decided this was a song to do it.
Well, there was no way to, I guess there's no way to avoid the Heaven Knows comparison, because there's a children's choir in it. But really, the intention, anytime we put like added vocals or anything like that on a song, it's not for emphasis of, you know, it's not a production technique. Like, that's not how it's actually written into the song itself. You know, with Heaven Knows, it started from a standpoint of I'm talking to a classroom, and I'm saying, and then I say sing it, and they sing it back to me. So it's actually written into the lyrics. And kind of the same thing with And So It Went, where I'm talking about children and I'm losing their minds, and I say they say, and you know, the kind of inevitable outcome of that is eventually they say it. So that's really where it kind of it came from, and the fact that it is kind of a throwback to something that was you know, showed us great success in the past is just kind of happenstance and totally cool. Like, you know, I've got no issue with that. But it's not something that was like a calculated thing of like, oh, well, we were successful with the children's choir once, so let's do that again. Like, that's not where that came from. The song, it's all just based on the song, like who plays on it, who sings on it, if there's a kids choir, like it all stems from the lyric, and the tone of the song itself is really what dictates where the song should go, and that's kind of what dictates how it should be produced, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Do you have a moment where you are kind of like, man, looking at this from 10 years ago, Taylor Momsen, you're 27 now, right? So 17-year-old Taylor Momsen, and think, I'm going to have 2 of these musicians that I respect so much in Kim, but also Tom Morello, a living legend, like on my record. When does that settle in? And is it when they say yes? Is it when you hear the track? Is it once it's released?
I don't know if it ever really does. And it's 3, by the way.
Yeah, 3. I miss Matt. Sorry.
Yeah, you gotta, you know, love Matt. One of my favorite drummers of all time. So I don't know. I mean, I think it kind of comes in waves. I mean, it really is song dictated. I mean, I know with Only Love Can Save Me Now, I knew that Kim and Matt would add, they would just add this like incredible weight to the song, that it was kind of begging for, you know, with their unique sound that is so kind of undeniably them. You know, I didn't want to try to change them or do like to alter anything. I was like, I feel like this is up your alley, and I feel like you will just play this the best, and you will take the song to the next level. And that song in particular, I mean, it was just such an extraordinary experience. I mean, we flew to Seattle, we did it at London Bridge Studios, which is where, you know, Soundgarden recorded Louder Than Love, and Pearl Jam recorded 10, and Alice in Chains made Dirt. And so, like, just to be in that space with them, making something new was just kind of such a beautiful, full circle, absolutely insane moment in my life. I mean, just to hear the song, like I knew that they would contribute so much. It just their kind of unparalleled wizardry of what they do with their instruments, but you never really know until you hear it for the first time. And so like to you know, I had the demo, I had the whole thing, but like to actually hear it come to life and come out of the speakers the first time Matt hits a snare and the first note that Kim plays, the whole song just was it's like electrocution coming out of the speakers, and it was just fucking awesome. It really was, and it still is. And so like that moment, I think, was when it really became real to me that we were making something really unique and really really special. And it's kind of the same thing with Tom, although we didn't actually do it we weren't together. You know, Tom recorded his parts by himself, but when we got his tracks back and we put it all together, it did exactly what I thought it was going to do. It just kind of, he comes in wailing like no one else can, like Tom Morello, and it just notches the song up a level to this I don't know, just a higher quality of music. And I hope that, you know, I really want to showcase, anytime we do a collaboration, I really want to showcase the people we are collaborating with. Like, it's not, you know, it's, yes, it's song driven. So I think of people, it's not, I'm kind of rambling now. I don't think of, I get asked, like, I don't write a song with the intention of asking someone to play on it. Like, that's not the process. That's not how it goes. It's the song is written, and then it's who can best serve the song. And if there's someone outside of ourselves that would do it more justice than we could do ourselves, then you make a phone call. You know?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what I did. And I don't know, it's incredible. And I have to thank all three of them, because they really took the songs to the, you know, the highest of highs for me.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so it went the next #1 on rock radio, like tomorrow. It's amazing. Yeah. 25 track 4, I have to refer to a specific lyric here that goes, at 25, all hope has died. So the only bright side that I found in that song was that, and you've said it's autobiographical, right? So that the person is living longer than expected. You had said prior that this was kind of where hope seeped into the record. This is supposed to be like the beginning of the hopeful part of the record. And I'm having a hard time recognizing the hopefulness in that track. So I was hoping maybe you could clarify.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the hopeful, you know, I wouldn't say that that's the hopeful turn, but it is the start of a hopeful turn where, you know, it says, you know, even though the chorus does say all hope has died, you know, and that is coming from a very real place, it also says I'm still alive. And I think that that's the first sign of hope, is I'm still here. You know, I've been through all this and life has thrown me a lot of curveballs, and I didn't necessarily handle them all that well. But after all of that, I'm still here. I'm 25 and I'm still alive, and I'm still here, and I'm still moving forward. And then that's really where the hopeful aspect of that song comes into play, for me, at least.
Did anyone hear that song? Has anyone heard that song and said, "Hey, Taylor, are you okay?" Because that song's dark.
They're all a little dark.
They're all a lot of darkness. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but that's, you know, that's what art is. I think, you know, art challenge, it allows for a space in the universe where you can be free to express yourself in any capacity. And, you know, sometimes that means delving into darker subjects and, you know, darker mental states. And that's why I love writing songs so much. It's really the place that I can kind of find my center and find my catharsis. And by working through everything by writing, that's how I find myself again. But yeah, I mean, like, you know, it was a dark time period. I think everyone around me knew that I wasn't exactly okay.
Yeah.
So it was, you know, I don't think anyone was shocked by what I was writing.
Yeah. Okay. this might just be me reading way too much into this, but you skip 7 altogether. You basically go through every year. You clump the teens, and some you go into more detail than others, but you absolutely skip 7. And I wonder, is that like a lyrical decision? Nothing worked with it, or was there something deeper there?
Both, but I'll keep you guessing.
I was like, you're not gonna tell me. I knew we were gonna get.
No, because I don't, I've said this before. I've said it many times. I don't like to get too detailed about the songs, just because I think that it's really unfair to the listener. Like, I think that takes so much away from the audience if the artist details first of all, I already put everything I have into the songs themselves. So, I always say, if you want to get to know me, listen to the words, listen to the music, and interpret it however you will. But if I go into depth about them, at least right away, I think that's taking something away from the listener in a way that's really unfair, because it doesn't matter what it's about to me at the end of the day. Like, once the music is out into the world, it matters how you relate to it. It matters how you associate it with your own life, how, the perspective that you take on it, and what you take away from it. And so me kind of tainting that with my own personal story, I feel like it's just, not fair. It's not cool. Like,
yeah,
that's something you do maybe like 10, 20 years down the line. That's what I think.
All right, so I'm gonna have to hold off my question for My Bones track 5 about 10 or 20 years, because
I'm probably not going to give you much on this record here, honestly.
That one you're not going to give it to me for sure. I was just, okay, we start with, I got this great plan. We end with, I did my plan, and I'm like, but Taylor, where's the plan? And you're not gonna, I was a little thrown off by that one.
Well, I mean, if you want to, I don't know what to say about My Bones. I mean, I really want everyone to kind of interpret it for themselves. But if you want to, I mean, you can equate it to a relationship that is not exactly great.
Okay. Fair enough. I appreciate that. So 6 is pretty self-explanatory. Got so high, like, okay, got that one. The question, I guess, would be, when you create, when you write, do you like to have a beverage? I don't know if you smoke. I don't know what your vices are, but do you kind of like separate those worlds, or do you find that maybe a cocktail helps you along in the writing process?
It's not like that. I mean, there's no formula of like, I have to drink to write songs, or I have to be sober to write songs. That's just not how it works. In the process of writing this album, I was certainly abusing a lot of substances. I was in a very, very dark place in a very deep hole of depression and substance abuse. And that was, a big part of it, but I don't necessarily know that the songs came because of that. I think that was just something that I was going through, and I had to kind of clean myself up, and I'm now doing better.
We're glad to hear that, Taylor. Very glad to hear that. 7, Broomsticks. So I remember you put that out. It was like Halloween. And I think at that point, only Death by Rock and Roll, the title track, had been out. So everybody was like, yes, new, the pretty, and then it was like 50 seconds long. And we're like, no, what are you doing to us? Little teaser. But many have commented that that's just a perfect song that would be, the companion to a Tim Burton film, or some like Disney horror movie, like a Bad Evil Princess. Do you ever think about scoring film scoring?
Actually, yeah, it's something that scoring film's it's a whole other world, but I would love to. First of all, if someone wants to give me the story, by all means, I will write a song to that story. I think I write from such a personal place, so I'm always kind of searching my own, racking my own brain and searching my own life for things to say, because really, if you don't have a point, then stop writing. There's no point. So you have to have something to say. So if someone wants to hand me a script and give me the story, by all means. Like, I love the Magnolia soundtrack by Amy Mann, and something like that has always kind of intrigued me. But it would have to be, the right project and the right thing, and who knows?
Who knows? Heaven knows. Track 8, Witches Burn. I'm referring back to this for the lyric. So the first line is, welcome back to the days of old. obviously when you think of burning witches, you think of like the Salem trials, right? So, and then you're taking us back, so even more so. And then I'm thinking, what is the equivalent of witches burning in 2021?
It's a good question. I haven't done a like track by track talking about the songs yet. This is the first one, so I'm a little kind of
I love it. I love it.
So I don't really have anything prepared. I don't know. I think that song kind of came from a place of, it was written during the time of the beginning of persecution of women and men and sex, and everything that started to kind of come out in the press of the kind of uncouth sexualized situation that was ended up in trials and all of that was happening. And it's kind of from a personal perspective of everyone's been, I feel like I've certainly been in my fair share of uncomfortable sexual situations, but that doesn't necessarily make it my fault. But it also doesn't that kind of make me a witch? Like, I think so. It was kind of coming from a perspective of it's like Me Too was just starting, and it was kind of almost the reverse kind of concept of that, of like, yeah, I've done my fair share of bad as well, but still doesn't make it okay. So I'll take my punishment.
Got it. 9 is standing at the wall. Again, this might not be one you want to get into. Just wondering what the wall is a metaphor for. The wall is a metaphor.
The wall is a metaphor for, I don't know, everything. I mean, at the time it was, I was in a very just low place, I guess. I felt very small, and I felt very lost. And I felt like there's this massive wall of grief and death and life, and this whole world outside of myself that I had no control over, and this whole world inside myself that I also didn't have control over. And it's kind of a metaphor for really anything you want it to be, but something that is surrounding you and overtaking your life, and in a way that you can't control. And the more you fight it, the bigger it gets, and eventually you kind of have to succumb to it, and take it for what it is. And that's how you're going to get to the other side. Like, if you keep denying things around you and I'm not saying this well, but if you keep denying things, like, and avoiding them, eventually they're going to come back bigger and stronger, and that's not always a good thing. And so I think the wall is kind of a metaphor for any sort of darkness, or it could be positive if you want to put it in that light, but any sort of something that's surrounding you in a way that you don't have any control over, I guess.
All right. Turning Gold, track 10, is when I was like, okay, all right, I like this. I feel like, there was that lyric where you're talking about healing, and then there was that moment where you sing everything's going to be all right. And that's when in my head I was like, okay, she's turning the corner. I can feel it. So yeah. So I'm curious, like, that day, that moment, your headspace, what changed? Do you remember writing that and yourself saying, okay?
Yes and no. I mean, I would probably be remiss to tell you that I remember everything exactly, because it's just not how it works. I mean, some songs come in pieces, some things come later. But the overall kind of feeling of that song, I think, came from a moment of clarity, I think, probably, where I just went, like, things will get better. Like, there was a moment where, like, I had that kind of realization that this mental place I've been in for a really long time, that can't last forever. And I don't even know that anything actually changed. I think it was just a moment where I was like, well, everyone says it, cliches exist for a reason. So, the cliche, things get better, it does get better. That has to be true. And so I think that was probably a moment where I started to kind of believe that.
Okay. For Rock and Roll Heaven, track 11, to me, that sounded like just a love song to music, right? That's how I interpret it. How do you feel about the fact, and going back to your statements about how you've spoken and music saved your life over and over again, how do you feel about that, the full circleness of you're doing that? Like the art that you create is giving that strength and that power to other people who were struggling at moments when they needed it just the way you have in the past. Like when you think of that.
Um, it's kind of incredible. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it doesn't hit me all the time, but it's certainly, and it's not something that I necessarily consciously think of while writing by any means or while making the music, but it is something that crosses my mind when, you know, release day is coming up and the album is coming out, because I do hope that, you know, that's something that I worked on and really that helped save my life in so many ways. You know, 'cause this album really did, like, I can't stress enough how much I don't know where I'd be without this record. Like it really was the thing that pulled me through, and is the reason I'm still here today. So if anything that I wrote or expressed can touch people in that same kind of way that music has touched me throughout my life, and maybe help them through a dark period or even a positive period. Like it doesn't always have to be dark. Like even it's just something that like puts a smile on someone's face, then I did my job. And that's, you know, that's the greatest compliment you can get as an artist and as a songwriter. And I really, I hope that we can inspire that. I hope that we can inspire a little hope in people, because I think that is something that we could all use a little bit more of, especially right now.
Yeah. The last track on the record, Harley Darling, clearly inspired by the passing of your producer and friend. Why did you want that to be the last song on this record?
Well, Harley Darling is very much it's my love letter to Kato, I guess. And it just felt like, you know, after you've been on this whole journey of death by rock and roll, you know, the album opens with the title track and the first thing you hear is Kato's footsteps. It felt very fitting to kind of wrap it up with this full circle story, you know, because that's how it ended. And so it you know, didn't really fit anywhere else. It fit at the end. And I think it kind of sums up the album in this full circle kind of way of like, you take this journey, you go through the ups and downs and the hills and the darkness and the light and whatever. And then it kind of ends in this melancholy, reflective place that's so based in love. And then the whole cycle starts over again. That, you know, Death by Rock and Roll is the first song on the album. It's obviously